two sons who were state champs from at Eastport, South Manor. And much like we experienced not too long ago, he's also dealt with some really scary and untimely tragic experiences, and he does a great job in talking about how he's overcome a lot of the hardships that he was given, and how wrestling was one of the bases of overcoming some of the challenges that he's been dealt with, just like we've had to do, especially the losing of Coach Altebrando. How a lot of us relied on what we were taught from the sport of wrestling from him to overcome that. So I don't want to say much more. Guys, this is a treat for you guys, so enjoy.
How you doing, guys? My name is John. Just want to make this as informal as possible. If you guys, during anything I say, you want to talk about something, you want to ask a question, by all means, just raise your hand. We'll talk about as much as possible, because I'm here for you. Tonight I'm here to give back to the sport that has given me so much in my life. And wrestling is absolutely the greatest sport in the world. By far, there is no other sport that can compare to it. And the reason for that is because wrestling is about preparing you for life. That's what it's about. As much as you think it's going to be about winning a league title or becoming an all-county wrestler and even having aspirations of being a state champion, it is about that. But the funny thing is, while it's teaching you that, it's giving you a blueprint to how to live your life afterwards. And everything you go through in this sport is going to come back to you and pay dividends so great in your life, you're not even going to understand. You're never going to realize it. Okay? Like I said, Coach, to let you a little bit about my background, I just want to tell you who I'm not. Okay? It's very easy to say who I'm not. I am not a national title holder. I am not an All-American. I am not a state champion. I am not a county champion. I am never had placed as all-county wrestler. Okay? So basically, what I'm telling you is I don't even have cauliflower ear. Okay? So as far as the quality of my wrestling career, it was a league champion. Okay? That's who I was. But 36 years after my last wrestling match, I still consider myself a wrestler. Okay? I played baseball. I don't consider myself a baseball player. Okay? I played some soccer. I don't consider myself a soccer player. Every day of my life, I consider myself a wrestler. Because wrestling teaches you how to fight. Okay? It teaches you how to overcome adversity. It teaches you how to go after what you want in life. Okay? And get knocked down and get back up and get knocked down again. Come up with a new plan and get back up. It teaches you that. Okay? When the thing about wrestling, it's more than a sport. It's an actual lifestyle. Okay? And that's the biggest thing you have to understand. Everything you go through in this sport is for a reason. Okay? Every person here has the capability of achieving everything that they want in this sport. It's a very, very simple formula. It's a very simple formula. It's just not easy. You set a goal, make a plan, you work hard, execute the plan. If it doesn't succeed, you make a new plan, try again, execute, and you start the cycle over and over again until you get what you want. It's not a matter if you can do it. It's a matter when you do it. You may run out of time. That's the only thing that's holding you back in this sport is the time. So I tell the guys who are just starting out, take advantage of everything you have, okay? The guys who are coming in their junior and senior year, you have a smaller amount of time. You got to be very, very conscious of your time, okay? What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to tell you my story. I'm going to tell you how wrestling impacted my life, and then I'm going to basically give you a couple of ways that wrestling could possibly impact your life and what you basically can use from this sport and how to apply it to your real life. I urge you to do two things. I urge you to take everything that you learn on the mat from this sport and apply it to your life off the mat. That's what wrestling is about. There are so many. I can look at the sport and the people who leave the sport. There are two types of people who leave the sport. The guys who leave the sport who basically go on and use everything that they use learn from wrestling, and they apply it to their real life, and they're successful beyond anyone's imagination. Everything in their life has structure, everything has discipline, everything that they have, they go after. It's not perfect, but it's work and it's successful. And then there are guys who leave the sport. It's a funny thing because this sport teaches everything you're going to need to know. And there are guys who leave the sport and their lives are in shambles. The only difference is one person applied what they know and learned, and the other person didn't. So the most important thing you can do from taking this sport and wrestling, okay, you're going to be on your own journey. Everyone here has their own separate journey in the sport. Some guys are going to win. Some guys are going to get burned bad. Some guys are going to put in 4 to 6 years, and it's never going to happen for you, okay? But I guarantee you, if you put your 100% into the sport, it's going to give you back twice that, okay? The other thing I dare you to do is I dare you to give yourself 100% to the sport. Don't hold back. Give it everything you got and watch how it affects your life and makes your life that much better, okay? Tell you a little bit about my story. I wrestled for William Floyd High School back in 1983. My aspirations were just like everybody else's. First, you set out to win a league title, then you want to be an all-county wrestler, then you want to be an all-state wrestler. I dedicated 6 years of my life to the sport. I paid the price, did the sacrifice. I mean, I cut weight. I mean, I was to the extreme where I was so dedicated to the sport. I mean, I was to the point where I wouldn't even take Holy Communion because I thought I'd be overweight the next day. So I did everything I needed to do for this sport, okay? My goal was, like I said, to be a county titleist and to go on to win a state title. In the county championship in my senior year, I broke a rib. And I hated this sport. I couldn't understand how you could put so much into something and get zero out of it in return. I never wanted to have anything to do with the sport for about 20 years. I mean, I swore my kids would never go near the sport. Why would anyone in their right mind dedicate their life to something and get zero back in return? And that's the way I looked at it for the longest time. Until I had adversity in my life. And then you realize how much the sport gives back to you in ways you never knew. 10 years ago, I had 4 healthy kids, one going to school in college, 2 in high school, and another in middle school. My daughter, who was just about to go back to her second year at FIT, came home from work one day, and I basically asked her to come watch TV with me before she went to bed, because I knew she was going off to school the next day. She basically says, I'm going to go upstairs and go to sleep for a while. She runs up the stairs. Me and my wife go back to watching TV. Normal night. Everything's fine. Out of the blue, we hear a thud. You know, and just like everyone else, you kind of wait for the second thing, kind of wait for a confirmation that something did happen out of the ordinary. Don't hear any confirmation. Basically check to see if anyone's robbing the car, anyone broke into a window, anyone's robbing the house. Everything seems fine. Then all of a sudden, another thud. What we didn't know was the first thud was my daughter having a seizure upstairs and falling into a closet door. Okay? And the second thud was the closet door dislodging, coming off of its track and hitting the ground. So when we run upstairs, we see her that she's not in any state. Her green eyes are brown. They're dilated. She's seizing. So my first instinct is put her in a fireman's carrier and carry her down the stairs, which I do. I pick her up, and halfway down the stairs, the body feels a little bit different. It feels heavier, and she stopped breathing. So I immediately bring it down, put it on the floor, and administer CPR, which I do not know, but I try to do whatever. After a few minutes, I get a tap on my shoulder, and the EMTs are there, and they take over from there. And within a couple of minutes, they put something under her nose, they put a mask on her face, they give her oxygen, they do a few things, and she comes back, and she's breathing normally again. So I follow her to the hospital. We get to the hospital. Me and my wife are basically feeling that the worst is over. And we get to the hospital, and there's 5 or 6 doctors working on her at that time, and everything seems normal. One doctor leaves the room, another doctor leaves the room, comes down to the point where there's only one nurse left in the room. All of a sudden, the nurse takes a bag of medicine, puts it on her IV. She's about to leave the room, and my daughter just starts, her head starts bopping up and down, seizing. Immediately, everyone comes back into the room. If you ever saw the movie Ghost, there's a look that everyone has right before the spirits come and take somebody away. Well, that's the look I saw on everyone around me. All of a sudden, the doctors are giving instructions to close the ER, to get the white curtains. And they go back into the room, and they work on my daughter for a couple of minutes. In the meantime, me and my wife were sitting there, and you realize if you wrestled a wrestling match, you realize how long one period is. 2 minutes is a long time. After 2 minutes, it seemed like a real long time. And at that point, my wife decides to make a deal with the gods. And she throws herself back. If you ever seen Tosh 2.0 Trust Fall, where someone throws himself back and the other person is supposed to catch him, well, she was making the deal with the gods, saying, just take me instead. And I just caught her right before she hit the floor. Now it's about 3 or 4 minutes in, and you get that sick feeling in your stomach. You realize this is not going to be good. 5 minutes go by. 6 minutes go by. And the doctor starts walking out. And the only thing that's going through my mind is saying, just don't say it. Don't say time of death. Don't do it. He walks up to me. He says, we did everything we possibly could do. My daughter was an 18-year-old girl. We went far beyond what we were supposed to do. I'm ready for it. He says we had to put her in a medically induced coma. I thought I just hit a home run. A medically induced coma, I'll take that. And that's when the wrestler in me kicked in. It took 26 years for me to realize what this sport is about. How to overcome things bigger than you. If you ever wrestled a wrestler that you knew was bigger than you, stronger than you, right? You had to get on that mat anyway. You had to put your fear aside, and you had to figure out a way to win. Not just survive, but to win. Everyone's been there, right? Well, in real life, that's what kicks in. So anyway, we get to the point where they tell us that he had put into a medically induced coma. And we go see a few hours later, we go to see the neurologist. Neurologist has a CAT scan in her hand, basically saying she has 0 brain activity. He says, have you ever heard of Karen Ann Quinlan? Which I have. He says, it's time for you to start thinking about making hard choices, okay? There's 0 chance of your daughter surviving. You need to start considering your options. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm fighting. I don't care what you tell me. I'm fighting. You can tell me all day long there's 0 chance. You could tell me all day long I'm not ranked, right? You could tell me all day long I'm the 16th seed. That's your opinion, right? That's your opinion. Reality is what you do. Reality is what happens. You don't believe the odds, okay? You got to understand that the odds are there. They're other people's opinion. So when you're in a situation where you got to believe or not believe, that's up to you. Doesn't matter what the odds are. Doesn't matter what other people are telling you. So basically they're saying she has 0 chance of recovering. So I basically said, I don't worry about that. I'm just going to take a few minutes and basically I walk over to my daughter and I say to her, I said, listen, you got to give me a sign. You got to let me know there's something going on here. And, you know, there was a thing with me and my daughter is she always wanted to get a tattoo, and I never really wanted her to get a tattoo. And I said to her, if you don't start moving, I'm going to check your body for tattoos. And all of a sudden, ding, ding, ding. And I look up at the monitor, and the nurse says, I guess she doesn't want you to check her body for tattoos. I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, I saw 2 of them. I said, what? I said, she goes, yeah. And she goes, all of a sudden, her pulse just went from 80 to 140. She goes, don't let them tell you there's nothing going on. So she shows me the first tattoo, which is an owl on the side of her side. And I said, wow, I'd never even seen it. She was sunbathing the other day outside, and I never even seen it. She goes, well, I'll show you the other one. And she showed me the other one, and underneath her right breast was the words, every breath is gold. And at that point, I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to fight. And I knew me and my wife were in for a battle that you don't worry about if you're going to win or not. So we spent the next 141 days at her bedside, getting her 1% better each and every day. And we had new goals. The first goal was to take care of her and cure her. And the second goal was to live and love life at the same time. We didn't want our other kids to be affected by what was going on. We wanted to continue to love life. And you know what? There's a universal law that basically says if the universe takes something from your value, it has to give you back something equal in return. So you may not understand what it's giving back to you. You may not recognize it. You know, you may not think you're opening up a gift, but you got to open up every gift it gives you, and in return, it's going to give you back something very, very comparable. But most of the times, people don't open those gifts, and they just sit there and they fester and they let the bad feelings get to them. But my point is this. At that point, I had 2 kids who were just getting into high school, and we threw ourselves into the sport. We needed to, me and my wife took shifts, and what we needed to do is that when my wife was with my daughter, I was with my kids wrestling. And we threw ourselves into the sport. And this sport taught me so much. It opened my eyes. It taught me about commitment and perseverance and never giving up, and how to beat somebody who's bigger than yourself, how to prepare for battle every single day. I don't condone cutting weight, but when you cut weight and you don't eat or drink for days at a time, and then you have to go out there and perform, it's something good to go through. Because there's going to be a time in your life where life's going to throw you on your back. There's nothing you can do about it. Everyone who lives long enough is going to get thrown to their back by life at one time. Either a death, a diagnosis, a divorce, something happens. And you're going to be in a really uncomfortable position for a really long time. And you got to fight not to get pinned. And that's what this sport is about. This sport is about imposing your will no matter what the circumstances are. Okay? Listen, everyone wants to win in this sport. Everybody wants to go out there and be all county and be all state and go out there and have great careers. But I'll tell you right now, every one of you has a journey that may not happen and end in you winning a state championship. Okay? I never got to stand on a podium and get my hand raised by this sport for a few seconds. You know, wrestling lasted about 6 years of my life. My rest of my life probably going to last another 60 years, 70 years. I got something much better than standing on a podium and getting my hand raised by this sport. I got a way to live life, a lifestyle. That actually every person here can get out of this sport. The lifestyle you get from this particular sport is going to prepare you for everything you ever go through. And I share you my story because I guarantee you that there are people in this room right now that are going through something that you feel is bigger than yourself. I guarantee it, right? And how you deal with that The only thing you can't control what's going to happen to you in life. The only thing you can control is how you react and respond to what happens to you. You ever go and lose a really hard match? The first thing you do is run in the hallway, right? You just want to get away from everyone, right? You're not sulking. You're not feeling sorry for yourself. You're getting it out of your system, preparing yourself to come back and get another battle. That's a wrestler, right? We've all been in that hallway before. We've all lost that tough match. We've all put everything we got into the sport, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work out for you, and all of a sudden it just breaks your heart. What do? What does a wrestler do? They don't quit. They don't stop. Get back to work. They work harder. They throw themselves deeper in the sport. They figure it out. They figure out what they need to do. They revise their plan, right? That's exactly what wrestling is about. That's exactly what life's about. You know, I always thought wrestling was an individual sport. It's all about one person out there on a mat, and it's all about, you're an individual. It's individual sport, one-on-one. But this is the biggest team sport there is. And it's preparing you for your biggest team aspect of your life. Who's on your team? Your coaches, your supporters, your fans, your mother, your father, your brother, your sisters. Everybody makes sacrifices for your behalf. Every person there is responsible for your success in the sport. You take one person out of the equation, I guarantee you're not as successful. Okay? Meals are made, taken to practice, your laundry's done, you're feeling down, all of a sudden you're curled up in a ball, sucking weight in your room, all of a sudden you're nasty to everybody and everybody understands. There's a support system here. Well, all of a sudden one year, wrestling's going to be over, okay? And your new opponent's going to be life. And your new teammates are going to be your family. And you know what? You got to do everything you possibly can do to make sure that your teammates are better every single day. That's what wrestling's about. If there's anything you could do to make your teammate better, you would. You're going to do the exact same thing with your family later on, right? There's nothing you can do to prepare for what life has in store for you. There's no training. There's no book. You have no idea the things that are going to be coming at you. Okay? You got to handle it. You got to figure it out. You got to take it on the chin. Right? You ever in a match and all of a sudden you thought it was going to be an easy match? You knew you were better than the kid, and all of a sudden you walk on there and he's attacking you like he's the best wrestler in the world and he's coming right after you. Nothing's ever going to be easy. You never wrestle a wrestling match that's easy. It's hard. Life is hard. The sooner you understand that life is hard, the easier it's going to be for you, right? As soon as you understand wrestling is hard, the easier it's going to be for you, right? All of a sudden, you get a hard shot and you get a little blood coming off your chin, right? You got to love the taste of blood in wrestling, right? That's when you come out, the competitor comes out, right? That's what wrestling's about. It's not a fight until you start bleeding, right? And when you start bleeding, that's when you go out there and you're yourself. You're not thinking, you go out there and do what you got to do. Exact same thing happens to life. Life is going to punch you in the lip and you're going to bleed. And how you react to that is going to be everything. It's going to dictate the quality of your life. It's going to dictate the quality of every person's life in your family. So how you respond is the wrestle in you, okay? There are a few things that I've learned in this sport that I'm going to hopefully just going to go over real quickly. Some of the things that I feel this sport has taught me for life. And I'm going to just go over, I call them the wrestling rules for life, all right? And the first rule is don't beat yourself, right? We all heard the saying, you ever hear the saying, don't reach back, right? Why don't you reach back? Anybody? Yeah, you're going to get an opportunity to score, and you're going to expose your back and put yourself in a bad position, right? So the first rule is never put yourself in any position that exposes your back in wrestling, right? Be in a good stance. Your stance is what stops people from scoring on you. Keep a good stance, stay in a good position, don't reach back, and don't give up easy points. That's the first thing you learn in wrestling, how not to beat yourself, right? In life, in wrestling, your stance is your head, your hands, and your hips, right? Those are the 3 lines of defense. Now, there's going to be a time where you're going to stop wrestling and all of a sudden life is your new opponent, okay? And your new 3 things that you got to protect are your mind, your body, and your spirit, okay? Those are the 3 things that you got to protect at all costs. You can't let anything attack your mind. You can't let anything attack your body or your spirit. And that's going to be your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is going to be your new stance, okay? And how you live your life is going to dictate whether you give up easy points, whether you expose your back, and whether life is going to pin you. You ever get thrown to your back early in a match, like 10 seconds into a period, and you're like fighting off your back for 2 minutes? It's the worst. There's nothing worse than that, right? You got to use all your energy just to survive, just to stay off your back, right? All you got to do is stay in a good stance, don't give up bad position, and keep yourself in a good position. But now you're fighting off your back for 2 minutes. Imagine early in your life getting thrown to your back and having to fight off your back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, okay? When I tell you don't beat yourself in life, and I know everyone tells you this, okay? Drugs, alcohol, anything that has to do with deteriorating your body, your mind, or your spirit, the more you test it, and the more you try it, and the more you basically think it's not going to hurt you, it's going to sneak up and it's going to break your stance. If your lifestyle, especially when things aren't going well, if you break your lifestyle, life is going to take advantage of you and score easy points on you. All right, so it's very important. I know everyone always tells you, no drugs, no alcohol, okay? But don't take the bait, all right? Imagine there are 2 fish out there, and each of these fish are having a conversation to each other. And one fish says, you know what? There's a worm out there, okay? Look how nice that worm looks. And the other fish says, you know what? I heard there's a big hook in that worm. And we were told not to go near that worm. And the other fish says, you know what? I know I can eat around that worm, and I can not go near that hook. And he tries, and guess what happens? He gets hooked, right? He gets hooked. No matter how many times they try to eat around the hook, it doesn't happen. You get hooked. All right? Same thing with life. All right? You got to make sure that you're not beating yourself. Life is, I can't tell you how difficult life is going to be. But you're a wrestler. You already know that. You know everything's going to be hard. Okay? But you have a chance to have a really good life if you're doing the right thing all the time. All right? Why are you going to be in a situation where you're beating yourself and making life harder for you than it actually is? The second thing I want to teach you from wrestling is I want you to teach you to dream big. Right? Dream big. How many of you guys have aspirations? You can hold it. You don't have to show me, but how many of you guys have aspirations to be an all-county wrestler or county champion, state champion? Right? You don't have to tell somebody else. If you don't, you should. I guarantee you everyone here can do it. You could be an all-county wrestler. You got to put your mind to it. You got to work hard. You got to dedicate yourself. You got to do everything else. Whatever your dream is, bring it up a notch. Why? Because in order for you to get something that is bigger than you thought you could possibly get, you got to become a better person than you are right now. All right? And that's what dreaming big does. It brings you up and it transforms and brings out the best version of yourself. In order to get that big goal, you got to change. You got to make corrections. You got to go out there and do things right. It makes you the best version of yourself. The third thing you should do, be delusionally optimistic. I'm talking about crazy optimistic. Like everything in the world's going to work out for you. And when you're looking at your goal, and people are going to tell you why you shouldn't have that goal, why you're crazy for thinking yourself to be a county champion. You were 2-12 last year. Why do you think you could be a county champion? I've seen it done. I've seen guys go from not even placed into a league into being a county champion. It can be done. But you got to have a delusional optimism. Well, I'm talking about anybody here. Remember Spencer Lee? Spencer Lee was a 3-time Pennsylvania state champion, 144-0 in high school, right? His junior year, he texts the guy in the state finals, right? That guy who he texts comes off the mat and basically says, I'm beating him next year, right? 144-0. 3-time Pennsylvania state champion. Everyone looked at that kid like, you're delusional. No, he was just delusionally optimistic. Next year, he beat him in that state championship. I remember where I was when I found that out. Anybody ever hear of Austin DeSanto? Right? He basically came out and said, I am beating him next year. After he got teched in the state finals, the kid's 144-0. That's the type of delusional optimism you have to have. Because when you have that type of delusional optimism, things start breaking your way. Okay? All of a sudden, when the universe realizes that you're on a mission, it's going to start helping you. You're going to start getting help from all different places you never even thought of. Because you have you're not looking at obstacles, you're turning obstacles into opportunities. You're turning problems into solutions. And when you start doing that, things start breaking your way. And that's a delusional optimism that you have to have. The other thing you have to do is you have to believe before. You ever get in a wrestling match, you know guys wrestling much better than you, you go out there and all of a sudden it's the second period and the score's 0-0, right? And the first thing goes, actually, let's say it's 2-0. And you say to yourself, I could beat this kid, right? By that time, 2 points might not be, it was too much for you to come back on, right? But if you went out there and you took advantage of every opportunity right from the beginning, you believed right from the beginning, you took advantage of his mistakes, you didn't allow him to reset, and those mistakes you turn into opportunities right from the beginning, you could possibly have beaten that kid right from the beginning. But when you get off the mat, you're like, if I only did it right from the beginning, I could have beat that kid. You don't need confirmation for belief. That's what makes belief so valuable, okay? By the time you get confirmation, it's way too late. All right, you got to believe before. And you know what? There are people in your life that believe in you before you even knew you were any good. You got your coaches, you got your parents, you got people basically telling you things that you have inside of you that you don't even know about. Whatever you do, keep those people in your life. Better yet, become one of those type of people. Believe before things happen. All right? Also, be yourself. When you are a wrestler, and you want to go out there and you want to become really good, the first thing you do is you look at a really well-known wrestler and you start wrestling like them. Anybody know Shakur Rashid from Longwood, right? One of the best wrestlers in Suffolk County. Really long arms, right? Has a body type for cradles. If you're a short and stocky kid and you're going to try to emulate Shakur Rashid, it's not going to work for you. What I want you to realize, Shakur took the assets that he had and he used them to the best of his abilities and got the results that he had. You got to use what's unique to you for your own benefit. And that's everything that goes in life. If you start copying other people, you see this guy's successful, this guy is doing a certain thing, and you start copying what they're doing, you're copying the wrong thing. What you got to copy is that they used and they were themselves and they were genuine and they went out there and they did what was right for themselves. If you are short and stocky, maybe double legs, right? If you're tall and lean, you want to throw in crab rod, you want to basically have a cradle, but you got to use what's right for you to your advantage, and the only way you can do that is by being genuine. So if you have a goal in life that you really want, you got to go after that. Whether it's wrestling or something else, you got to be genuine to yourself, because when you're genuine to yourself and you use your uniqueness, that's when the best part of you comes out. All right? The other thing is that every single time you achieve a goal, there's only going to be 2 times that you're actually going to be in a situation where you're very vulnerable. First time is when you quit. Okay, you're on path to your goal and you quit and you stop. We just know that's not going to happen. The second time is when you actually achieve your goal, right? When you achieve your goal, you're vulnerable because your goal has been achieved. You think by getting to your goal is actually what it was all about. You say, okay, I want to become a county champion, and you're a junior, and all of a sudden you say, I reached my county championship as my junior year, and you think you got there. There's no such thing as getting there. The benefit is not getting there. The benefit is being in pursuit of getting there. Okay? And you could always be in pursuit. It's the pursuit that's where the best of you is going to be honed. It's not getting there. All right? So when you have a big goal, you're virtually always in pursuit. It may take you a couple of years. And that's the benefit of having a huge, huge goal, is the fact that it's going to take you a couple of years. And that you're going to be in pursuit for a couple of years. And you're going to turn into the best version of yourself by doing that. So there are a lot of benefits of having a very, very big, big goal. When I went into the workplace, one of the responsibilities I had was hiring somebody. And we always looked to hire athletes, because athletes kind of knew about work ethic. They knew about responsibility. They knew about commitment. And he always knew a wrestler without even them letting you know they were wrestlers. Because everything they talked about, if you gave them an option, they always chose the harder option. It's like, okay, would you like to work here or would you like to work here? Here being the harder option. I take that one. All right? You get an idea that a wrestler understands that hard is good. Right? You ever have a practice where your coach comes up to you and says, listen, we have a big match next week. We have two different types of practices we can have. We can have a light option, or we can have a really hard option and basically get us ready. You ever hear a wrestler say, I want the lighter one? Go easy on us? Doesn't happen, right? So that mentality in everything you do in life, choosing the harder option is payback. And that's going to help you in every decision that you make. The harder options is always the better option. All right. One other benefit of one of the things that going to help you in life is picking the right partner. Okay. How important is the right partner in wrestling? Right? How important is it to go out there and work out with somebody who's going to be with you through a weight cut, through working hard, pushing you, getting you to the next level, doing everything they possibly can to compete with you. But also while they're competing with you, you're cooperating with each other to make each other better. I just want to tell you a little story about choosing the right partners, an alliance basically of cooperation. In 2013, I believe, my son Travis, Nick Piccinini, Chris Moriello, and Jimmy Leach decided that they were going to push each other. They were going to form an alliance. And they were going to do everything they possibly could for a full year. And this is after working years and years and years. But they got together and said, listen, we're going to work a full year. And our goal, 4 state champions. That's a pretty lofty goal. 4 state champions out of 4 guys in alliance, out of 15 weight classes in the state, right? So basically they went a full year. Practice, privates, training, weight training, talking to each other, supporting each other, pushing each other. When one guy didn't feel like doing his best, the other guys were on his case. When one guy wanted to take a day off or made an excuse, the other guys were pulling him into the circle. Okay? By the time he got to the end of the year, the 120-pound weight class, Nick Piccinini went to state title. Right after him at 126, Travis, my son, wins a state title. Right after he walks off the mat at 132, Chris Moriello wins a state title. Boom, boom, boom. Jimmy Leach wrestled a great tournament. He was very, very close to placing. 3 out of 4. Every person was needed in that alliance in order to make that happen. If you take a look at that alliance, 3 state champions out of 4 partners. Okay? Iron sharpens iron. The people you hang around with, the people who you're associated with in your life are going to be the biggest impact in your life that you can ever imagine. You got to associate yourself with people who are going to bring the best out in you. Okay? People who are going to push you. People who are going to call you out when you're making excuses and they know it. okay? You got to be in a situation where you're rubbing elbows with people who are better than you, all right? Imagine this. Let's go through a little bit of imagine this situation. Imagine you were in an experiment where you had to give up your thoughts and decision-making process to somebody you know for a full month. You have no say in anything you do or say. They make all the decisions. They have all the thoughts. And the goal is, after a month's period of time, you got to be closer to your goal than before the month started. Now go through every person you associate your life with and ask yourself, would I trust that responsibility with any one of those people? If the answer to that is no, got some cleaning house to do. Answer to that is yes, that's your inner circle. That's your alliance. That's the people you build upon. That's the people you're going to keep in your life. Those are the people that are going to make you better. Okay? Because there's going to be a time where your thought process is not what you want it to be. And somebody's going to be making decisions for you, not directly, but indirectly. Somebody's going to be in your ear when you're the weakest in your life. Okay? And you want that person to be bringing you up instead of pushing you down. You want the decisions to be making you better rather than making you worse. Okay? So make sure the people you associate with, okay, iron sharpens iron. Pick the right partner. Everything you do in any place you go on Long Island, everybody's looking to get into the best room possible. Right? You go to a wrestling club, what's the number one thing people want to do? They want to go with the best guy there. They want to go out there and they want to find the best partner. Why? It's going to make you better. Same exact thing with your friends. Okay? People got to make you better. The only thing you control in wrestling, Derek Jeter said it best. You can't control your talent. You're born with that. You can work hard to get a little bit more. The only thing you can't control is how hard you work. Right? Every single day, just get 1% better. Every single day, practice with a purpose. Go out there and get something done. Right? You ever see Yanni Diakomahalis in the last week or so? He says every day matters. Every day matters. Every second matters. Every minute matters. Everything you think about matters. Everything you eat matters. Everything matters. Remember, your goal is like a big mountain out there, right? And your job is to get to that mountain no matter what. And you got to ask yourself, what I'm going to do right now, is that going to take me closer or further away from that mountain? What am I thinking about right now? Is that taking me further away or closer to that mountain? If the answer is further away, you don't do it. It's that simple. If it's taking you closer, you do it. And you put those days together like that, and all of a sudden that mountain appears to you. All right? You ever get in a wrestling practice where, coach says we're going to go 10 minutes hard, we're going to do some knee-ups, we're going to basically just want you to sprint for 10 minutes real hard, right? And he wants to see whether or not you're going to give 100% effort, right? And you're giving as much effort as you possibly can, but he knows you're giving 99%, right? You're holding something back because you know you got another 10 minutes. So what does he do? Makes it longer, right? And he keeps going until you actually give the 100%. And when you give the 100%, you stop. And the next day, he says, we're going to do that again. And the next day, he realizes you're doing the same thing. You're pacing yourself. You're not giving that 100%. What he's trying to do, he's trying to get you to another level. He's trying to make you realize that when you think you don't have anything else to give, you got more left in you. And as soon as you get to that level, the sooner he stops. Right? Next day he comes in, he says, do it again. And all of a sudden you decide that all of a sudden you're going to just say, I'm going to give 100% right from the beginning. You go a minute and he stops. He's just showing you. He just wants you to give 100% all the time. If you give 99%, you're going to regret that 1%. You're going to be left with 1%, and you're just going to regret that 1%. The one thing that I learned, and I'll start bringing it together. There's a saying in wrestling, and it's the biggest thing that I learned from this sport. And the saying basically is, don't let one loss beat you twice. Okay? Everybody ever make it to the semifinals of a tournament? You get to the semifinals, you got one match to go to the finals. All of a sudden, you lose a heartbreaker, right? and all of a sudden you're like, you start thinking about what you could have done, what you should have done. You start thinking about in the past, and all of a sudden you got to wrestle in another hour. Now you know you can beat that kid. What usually happens in that situation? Anybody realize what it's called? A semi-slide. You make the semifinals. You're the best wrestler in the tournament. You happen to lose, but now your mind's not right. You're not prepared for the next match. You're thinking about losing. Guaranteed you're going to lose that next match. Okay, and then you lose that next match and you say to yourself, what am I doing? All of a sudden you got another match in another hour and then you lose that match. And you say to yourself, what did I just do? I'm the best wrestler here, and all of a sudden I let one loss turn to two, turn to three losses. Now, we've all been through, you guys have been through something really horrible in your life, okay? You lost your coach, okay? I went through a bad experience myself, okay? When you lose something, all right, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, okay? But you can't let that loss make you lose other things also, all right? Things aren't lost. They're transformed, okay? When people pass away, I don't believe they're just gone. I think they stay with you. I think they're transformed. A piece of them is with you at all times, all right? And now you have a reason to go out and do something. You can't let, listen, grief is a horrible, horrible emotion. And you're all going to, you felt it over the last year's time, and everyone's going to deal with it their own way, okay? There's no right way, there's no wrong way, okay? You just have to feel it your own, you got to feel it your own way. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about my grief and how I've handled it, and maybe it helps you guys a little bit. And then, like I said, we'll open a floor for some questions and then, go from there. But, my situation's been about 10 years. And people are nice, but sometimes people say some stupid stuff, okay? I don't consider my daughter lost, but sometimes people say you lost a child. It's time to get over it, right? It's been a while for you guys, over a year time. If everyone ever tells you to get over it, it's like they don't mean to be mean, but they don't understand what you're going through. Now, I'll tell you how I've felt it, handled it. To me, losing somebody is like a brick wall. It's like a brick wall. Well, people tell you should get over that, right? I don't want to get over it. Even if I got over it, I don't want to leave it. It's the wall. It's a person. I don't want to leave that. It's something. It's part of me. Okay. You don't want to just go on, but that wall is going to be with you for your life, and how you handle that is going to dictate the quality of your life. So you can sit there and try to move that wall. It's not going to budge. Okay? You're going to try to go around it, go over it, go under it. It's not going to budge. Okay? What I learned and what I transformed in my mind, I made believe everything I did, every piece of kindness I ever did in my life, every compliment I gave somebody, anytime I ever believed in somebody, anytime I ever went out of my way to be nice to somebody, I believe that turned that wall, the base of that wall, flooded the base of the wall. Every piece of kindness I did turned to water. And that wall all of a sudden eroded on the bottom. And all of a sudden it fell. And that wall turned into a raft. Right? Now I was able to take that raft on that water and go anywhere I wanted. And I was always with it. Right? It wasn't a wall. You got to turn it into something that's going to... And that raft took me places I never thought I can go to. Okay? I saw places I never would have experienced unless I had that raft. All right? So you got to use what you guys have been through to a positive benefit. All right? And turn what your feelings are and appreciation for your coach and everything you have and what you're going through. Don't just hide it. All right? Use it for good. Right? When you will be given a gift through that transformation of your coach leaving. And that gift is going to be your perception on life, okay? It's going to be your appreciation, your gratitude. You're going to be the quality of your life. You're going to start realizing how great life is, okay? Somehow, some way. And by being kind to other people and helping other people and taking straws off of people's back, what I mean by that is the saying, one straw broke the camel's back, right? What if you took the straw off the camel's back and made somebody's life easier instead of harder? And when you did that, more water, right? And that water takes that raft and it starts taking you to places you've never seen before. So I'm telling you right now, it's hard to go through a loss. Everyone in their life is going to go through a loss. The way you handle that loss, okay, and what you do for that loss, okay, and how you respond to that loss is going to be whether or not, like I said, it's going to dictate the quality of your life and the people's lives around you, okay? I appreciate the time you guys gave me. I wanted to come here today to give back a little about the sport and let you know that the sport is much more than a sport. It's a lifestyle, all right? And when you think the reward you think you're going to get in the sport is not the reward you're going to receive. You're going to receive so much more, all right? But right now, you think it's about wins and losses and state titles and championships. It's much more than that, all right? So I appreciate the time. If you guys have questions, you go through a little Q&A or whatever you want. If you have any questions or concerns, or it's just time to ask. Yes.
So your sons both obviously state champions and successful college wrestlers as well. What training and extra steps did they take to reach that level?
Yeah, I can tell you my story. At the time I was going through the situation with my daughter, it was the exact time club wrestling started to become prominent on Long Island. And I had I took my kids to, at the time it was Razor Wrestling, and I just clicked with Mike Petrovich, and I just, the way he talked, the way he trained, the way he committed himself, the low-key atmosphere where it was work, everything about him just clicked with me. And you started off 2 days a week. We basically went to practice. Coach was telling you guys to go out there and go to these tournaments. Practice is great, but live wrestling is your practice. Now that sounds weird. That's for your practice. Okay, why? Do you ever get, in regular practice, do you ever get a bad call by a referee? Do you ever have lines you have to deal with? Do you ever have a timer? Right? Those are things that you're going to see in a match that you're never going to get in practice. Right? So what we started to do, we went 2 days a week. And then I just needed to throw myself into something. We just started to go 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. We went to 2 weeks of tournaments, 1 week off. 2 weeks of tournaments, 1 week off. I can't tell you how crazy I was, because I was pretty crazy. I don't recommend to do what I did. What I mean by that is my youngest son Travis had 160 matches in 1 year. Okay, he got pretty good. All right, 160 matches in a year. I was a little bit much. I wouldn't do that. But my point is, there was nothing else on our mind. I mean, it was very simple. My goal was to live and love life. And the way I was going to accomplish that goal was to make sure my kids were living and loving life. And I was just going to be with them and throw myself into them. And the one thing we shared at the time was wrestling. And we went to practice, we went to privates, we did tournaments, we traveled. And that was my time away from what was going on at home. It was that time away from going on at home. The way you get better is you work hard. It's simple. It's not easy. I can give every person here the formula to be a county champion, right? It is a simple formula. I've seen kids who had no right to be county champions turn out to be county champions because they put in the time, they did the work, they listened to the people who were coaching them, and they got better. And when they got stuck, they figured it out. When they had a loss, it hurt. Because when it hurts, you figure it out, right? You figure it out why you're hurting. You figure out what it is that made you lose that match. You figure out, okay, I've lost 3 matches in the last 3 weeks' time, all on a single leg to my right side. I got to figure out how to stop a single leg to the right side, all right? You figure it out. Now, as a father or as a coach, we could figure it out for you all day long. It's not the right way of doing it. You got to figure it out. And when you put in the time and you put in the effort and you say to yourself, what is it that I need to do to become more successful? You will become more successful. You will figure it out. Okay? If you go to practice saying, listen, I need to get better on top, and you work on getting better on top, you will turn the best kids in the state. There's no doubt about it. If you want to win in wrestling, wrestle off season, wrestle as many matches as you possibly can. Coach said it to you. If there's anyone who has any economic issues, reach out to Coach, reach out to me. We'll make it happen. There's nothing in this sport that will stop you from being successful. Don't let money be an issue. If you need assistance, reach out. I'll help you. Okay? This sport is going to be the best. If you have a desire to get better, you will get better. To answer your question is for what they did, okay, is they got back up is what they did. Okay? That's the difference. Okay? My youngest guy put in 3 or 4 years worth of really, really hard club practice, right? And his freshman year, he was 35-0 going into the postseason. And he won the Eastern States. Never behind in any match during the whole season. Not 1 second. Lost in the semifinals of the county because of me. I was happening to be coaching him at the time. I got distracted. I didn't realize he'd give up a penalty point. I told him to take a wrong position, and I thought all he had to do was ride him out, and he was actually behind the point. And it's something that, listen, it hurts, okay? But the thing is, I got up, he got up. We recommitted. We go out there the next year, the next year, the next year. It's going to take more than one effort. It's going to take everything you got 5 times over. Okay? And that's just like anything in life. If you want something in life, it's not going to take one effort. You're not just going to get whatever you want because you want it. How many guys here think they deserve it because they work the hardest? Right? They want it more than guys. Listen to me. I hate to tell you. You got some crazy people in wrestling. Right? They work insanely hard. They want it just as much, if not more than you. Okay? So it's not whether you want it. It's not whether you work hard. That's the entrance fee into the sport. Everyone works hard. Everyone wants it. Now, that gives you the ticket to go out there and have a chance of being successful. And you know what? If you give everything and you don't get it, what you want that year, you got to get back up, dust yourself off, and do it again. I'll tell you a quick story about my other guy, Mav. His goal is, he just lost to Mike Marangolo when he was in 9th grade, all right? And at that point in time, he basically says, I'm going to go out there, I want to become an All-American, okay? No right to say that, worked a whole year period of time, wanted to go out there and become an All-American. Gets to one match to be an All-American in NHSCA, loses by a point. Runs off the mat, finds that whole place where you know that you just want to be alone, sulks. I go over there, comfort him a couple of minutes later, he hands me his shoes. We all know what that means, right? What does that mean? I quit, right? I'm out. I retire, right? I'm done. Because I'm not doing this. I'm not putting in a year of this type of work and coming 1 point within, my goal. So I let him fester for a little bit. I said, when you're ready to do it all again, let me know. We'll go out there and work harder. We'll go out there and we'll get that point back next year. After a week or so, gets back in, gets his shoes back on, laces them back up. Next year's goal, become an All-American. Now it's his junior year. Gets down to the NHSCA after working twice as hard for a whole year's period of time. Doing everything right, living the lifestyle, making sure his weight is right, lifting weights, wrestling the best people, going out there and doing everything you possibly can do it right. The national anthem is still playing. He's on mat 1. His first draw was a 4-time national champion. First match, 3 minutes into the national tournament. He loses his first match. Wrestles back, almost becomes an All-American that year. runs off the mat. I know where he is. He's in that exact same spot, right? His shoes are already off. They're thrown somewhere. I have to go find him, give him back to him, say, you want to do it again? Let me know when you want to do it again. We'll work harder next year. He says, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And the difference between that, quitting there, and getting up, taking your pain, doing the work again, next year, wins the state title. And I guarantee you, he would never have won that state title unless he went through the pain of those 3 losses. So what makes you successful? It's how much pain you're willing to take and still keep going. That's what it comes down to. It's how much pain you're willing to take, how much commitment, how much discipline. What are you willing to do in order to achieve your goal? And one thing I didn't go over before is that, we say we all want goals, all right? Let me ask you a question. If you tell me your goal is to win a county championship, and I tell you, you know what, you made the county finals, okay? Would you be satisfied? And McKinley goes, you know what, I made the county finals. I had a pretty good year. That's pretty good. I said, what if you took 3rd? Well, you're taking 3rd is still really good. How about 5th? No, I wouldn't settle for 5th. So his goal was somewhere between 3rd and 5th. His real goal wasn't to win, because what you're willing to accept, the least amount you're willing to accept is your goal. So if he would have taken 3rd, he would have been happy with that. So when you have to reach down, right, and you have to reach down and get something that you think is not there, and you have to pull something out, okay? If you're doing it to take 2nd, that wasn't his real goal. His real goal was to take 3rd, 4th, or 5th. That's really where he saw himself there. So, my point is that you have wants and you have goals. And for a goal, you're going to do anything you can to get there. And for a want, you're going to settle for it. So things you're going to be settled for, and things you're going to go out and you're going to go after. So when it's a real goal, you're going to get yourself up off the mat. You're going to put your shoes back on. You're going to go to work. You're going to double down on your work ethic. You're going to do everything right. And the difference between one year and the next, for a great wrestler, everyone here trains their body. Yes? Everybody, right? Very few people train their mind. You want to make a leap in wrestling? Feed your mind, right? We all have chatter in our heads, yes? We can't control the chatter. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. You can't control it. The only thing you can control is what you listen to. And what you listen to gets louder by what you feed. The good chatter or the bad chatter, right? If you feed the bad chatter, what's going to happen? You're going to hear the bad chatter. You feed the good chatter, you're going to hear the good chatter. Who puts the chatter in your head? Your friends, your associates, the people that you're hanging out with, right? Good or bad chatter. You got to feed that. Anything that you do, everything you do that feeds your mind to good chatter inside your head, telling you you're going to accomplish your goals. You're getting closer there. Okay, keep going. Don't give up. Those are the people you want to be around. Those are the people who make you stronger. Those are the people who get to your goal. Okay? So when you put yourself in a situation where you get yourself back up off the mat after a really tough loss, it's going to be hard, okay? And we're all going through that, okay? But when you do that, there's a prize out there bigger than you thought you could actually have. All right, so getting good in this sport is not hard. It really isn't. I mean, it's not. It's very, very simple. It's extremely hard, is what I really meant to say. All right? We all know what it takes to get good in this sport. Yes? We all know that if you eat certain types of foods, you're going to feed certain parts of your body. Yes? We all know that, right? So if you really wanted to, you could feed the best parts of your body, make your muscles bigger, stronger, and that's a lifestyle. You take that out of the sport and you keep it in your regular life. Okay? But my point is this. People are only willing to do what is convenient for them in order to get what they want. If you want to be successful, you got to get uncomfortable. It's simple as that. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. All right? And that's what makes you successful. So, tell you the story. You asked me what they do. We used to go out to Pennsylvania to get our brains beaten in. Okay? If you know anything about Pennsylvania wrestling, New Jersey wrestling, it's tough, right? You go to your local tournaments here, you build up confidence, then you get your brains beat in by going to Pennsylvania. Okay? And by getting our brains beat in at Pennsylvania, taught us what we needed to do and what we needed to work on and what type of moves actually worked and what we should be working on. I could tell you countless times having them getting teched in Pennsylvania, driving home 4 or 5 hours, and basically, it's a hard drive home. You're driving 4 hours there, 4 hours back, and you get teched in, 2 minutes. It's a tough ride. But that getting teched there, my son got teched on a standing tilt in Pennsylvania, took it home, mastered the standing tilt, and then went on and teched 66 guys in 2 years with the standing tilt. So what you need to do, you need to feel pain. You need to turn that pain into something productive. You need to go out there and wrestle the best people. Listen, I'm not telling you to go out there and wrestle the best people right off the bat. You wrestle the people at your level. You wrestle the people at the next level. And then you wrestle somebody below your level. You wrestle all different levels. The guy you wrestle below your level is going to build up your confidence. The guy you wrestle at your level is going to give you a good match. And the guy who wrestle above you is the guy who's going to teach you something. So that's what you do. You wrestle all those different type of matches at all the time. So we used to basically have 2 or 3 tournaments at home and then go out there and wrestle somebody at a really high level. Go to these tournaments. Go to the regional tournaments. Okay? Your biggest match can't be the counties when you get there. If that's your biggest match and you ever wrestled, it's going to be pretty hard to control the situation. Your biggest match has to be well before you get to your goal. Okay? So when you go out there and wrestle the toughest guys, listen, things happen. You get better. And one of the biggest rules I didn't tell you about is this. In every single match, 2 things happen. Either you win or you learn. And when you take that attitude, the win and you learn, okay, you're going to turn your wins. You understand what you did right there. But when your losses, you turn into wins because you learned what you needed to do. And you went out there and made adjustments. And you went out there and realized why you're giving up points. And you stopped that and corrected that. And you realized why you weren't scoring. And you corrected that. Then that loss is not a loss. It's a win. And when you do that over and over and over again, every single loss turns into a win. And when you turn every single loss into a win, you're winning all the time. So now you're not thinking about going out there, I'm afraid to lose. The biggest thing I see in this generation, and it's difficult for me because it's really hard. Guys are so talented. They're so talented. I mean, they've had training for a long period of time. They've done all the work. They've put in all the time. But they're afraid to lose. Right? They're afraid to go out there and put it on the line. They feel that they got something already. Right? You can't be afraid to lose because a loss is not a loss. It's a learn. And when you take your attitude that your loss is a learn, you're not losing. So you don't go out there and say, okay, I'm afraid to wrestle this guy. I don't want to wrestle this guy. I beat this guy last week. I can't wrestle him this week. I hate when coaches do that. They wrestle a guy, in a dual meet, and all of a sudden the league's coming up in 3 weeks. I can't wrestle him in a dual meet. You beat him there, and you beat him there. And if you don't beat him, you adjust. Anyone, anytime, anywhere. That should be your motto. Anyone, anytime, anywhere. Okay? I don't care. My youngest guy came through the system with some really, really quality wrestlers. One of the quality wrestlers he was a kid named Mark West. Mark West won a state championship in 9th grade, went 40-0, and he was just a phenomenal wrestler. When my guy was a youth wrestler, and I was actually just walking through your gym before we started, our first match was in this high school, and my son won a county championship in this high school. So I like this high school. But one of the things that he wrestled Mark West 14 times. 14 times. Mark West beat him 14 times. 14 times. Now, what I learned about that is this. I studied Mark like every single time we wrestled him. And every single time we made an adjustment. And you know what? Mark was so good. By the time we made the adjustment, we went out there and made that adjustment the following week. He beat us a different way. And then we made an adjustment that following week, and he went out there again. We got really close. Then he got mad and pounded us. And then we got too close again. He went out there and made another adjustment. You make each other better, all right? So everything that we did, every piece of film that we studied, everything we looked at, every way he scored a point on us, he then revised a new way and a new plan to beat us again. And by wrestling each other 14 times, okay, we could have said, you know what? We wrestled him last week. We made Mark better. You know, Mark was a great wrestler. He put in a lot of work and did everything he possibly can. But I guarantee you, by beating Travis 14 times, made him better. He had to figure things out, how to beat somebody a different way. So, you know, it's getting better is just hard work. Putting your nose to the grindstone, going out there and wrestling matches, and getting out in real matches. The regular season, okay. You got okay. I was just going to tell you, the regular season is practice for you. Every single match you wrestle in the regular season is practice. Your main match is your postseason. Everything you do during the regular season does not matter. Okay? All it does is designed to get you better. That's it. Your postseason is your regular matches. So during your regular season, if you approach every single one of your match that this is practice, I'm going out there to get better. I'm going to get 1% better for the end of the year. When you take that approach, you're not thinking about winning or losing. You're just going out there and getting better. And when you do that, by the time the end of the season comes, you're going to be in the best shape possible. So, all right, guys, I appreciate the time. I know this was topic was, you know, kind of all over the place, but I just, like I said, I wanted to share some of my thoughts, and I just want to give back a little bit tonight. And I just want to thank Coach for bringing me down tonight.
Please, thank you.
All right.